I think this show just gets better every week. I don't want to get myself too hyped for this series because I think we all understand how shows, especially in this new era of streaming, can absolutely just fall apart in the second half. But we're 3 episodes in, and so far I've loved almost every single minute of it. Like, subscribe, comment down below, and tell a friend. If you're new, check out the channel and let me know what you think. Let's dive into The Penguin, Episode 3. This week's episode, we get a very heavy dose of Vic. You'll know if you've watched my review of episode 1 that I was sort of on the fence about Penguin having a sidekick, but I adore this character at this point. We get a flashback of Vic from before the series, and this flashback not only illuminates how Gotham and its people were affected by the Riddler's actions, but it also reveals how Vic was affected personally and how he found himself in his current situation. During the flood spawned from the Riddler's bombings, Vic's family, his mother, father, and sister were all killed. He lost everything. He fell in with the wrong people and ended up living a life with the Penguin that he never thought he would. We get so many added compelling dimensions to this character this episode. Vic's father was his moral compass, and we see that come into play a few times throughout this episode as he constantly questions what he's doing. He loves being successful in creating a life for himself, but he's at odds with the way he has to do it. His father was a simple man. He cared about his family and providing a better life for them, making his way through life as a mechanic, and we see how he always tries to steer his kids in the right direction. Vic knows if his father was alive today that he would disown him for how he's been living. At one point, he even outright declares this to Oz, that his father would be ashamed of him. Yet at the same time, he has this special connection with Oz and Oz with him. This is my favorite aspect of this series. These two are connected because they both come from tragedy, they both come from humble beginnings, and they both have physical ailments. Oz the limp and Vic his stutter. I think their relationship is so engaging because Vic may be the only other character besides Oz's mother, sometimes Sophia, that Oz truly cares for. He's one of the only characters that he will be honest with and become vulnerable around because he sees so much of himself in Vic. Even when Vic tries to leave and run off with his girlfriend, Oz chastises him for his decision, but he refuses to hold him hostage. Their relationship is definitely the highlight of this series, and it was something I was pretty apprehensive about at first. But I think all this relationship does is add more interesting layers to both of these characters. Then there is the Oz and Sophia relationship, a compelling thread to this story in its own right. They also share a unique relationship as they both are members of this crime family that have been shunned and disrespected from the top brass. They agree to ally themselves with each other, and they both seem to have a mutual respect enough for one another to open themselves up. But you still cannot ever tell how honest they are each being with one another or if they're just manipulating the other one. It gets even more complicated in this episode when it's revealed that Sophia ended up in Arkham because Oz turned her into her father, securing his place by Carmine's side. There is a super emotional scene towards the end of this episode where Sophia confronts Oz about this, and Oz apologizes for the betrayal, and he looks like he's being totally, completely honest about that apology. But at the same time, he admits he doesn't regret doing this because of the success that he garnered from it. And even though that's kind of a hard answer to swallow, Sophia seems to respect it, and they seemingly make amends. But as the Maronis come down and show up, guns pulled out, down on him, Oz once again leaves Sophia in the dust. So I'm interested to see what happens because the relationship is just so complicated at this point. it's about to get even more complicated after the conclusion of this episode, I think. This week, we also get really the genesis of Oz and Sophia's own criminal empire, as they're able to secure buyers in the triads for their drug bliss. And they do this by successfully blackmailing Johnny Vitti, who's been sleeping with Luca's wife, giving them leverage over him so he will vow support for their drug and their business to the triads. And they finally find a path for these two partners to really navigate their way into the top echelon of this family. And then in the end, just yet another wrench is just thrown into the situation, causing all of Oz's plans again to devolve into chaos. And I said last week, this is my second favorite part of this show outside of these characters' relationships, is that Oz is constantly just hatching these grand schemes to find his way to the top of this empire, and he's constantly having to just change on the fly because so many things just come up that are just continually throwing his plans into disarray. It's comical, but also interesting at the same time to see his brain work in these situations to come up with another plan to get out of them. This show just continues to be so compelling week to week. I feel like more and more layers get stacked on top of each character every week. They're just so complex and enjoyable and just so engaging to watch. Just everything about this show, from the relationships to the intricate dealings of this criminal empire, all of it, I enjoy watching all of it. This is probably my favorite week-to-week series currently airing, and I cannot wait to see where it goes from here.